In the grimy shadows of Lincoln High, twins, Mia and Milo White, pale as ghosts and quiet as shadows, face a brutal ambush by the school's toughest bullies. Unknown to their tormentors, these twins are trained in bone-crushing martial arts, and tonight, the hunters become the hunted. Subscribe now for epic showdowns. The air in Lincoln High's west courtyard hung heavy with the stench of stale cigarettes and cheap body spray. It was a Friday evening in late September. The school's after-hours vibe was a mix of restless energy and simmering tension. Most kids had scattered after the final bell, chasing buses or loitering at the nearby diner, but the west courtyard was the domain of the untouchables, the bullies who ruled Lincoln High like petty warlords. Tonight, they had their sights set on Mia and Milo White, the pale, white-haired twins who'd transferred in 3 months ago and hadn't said more than 10 words to anyone. The twins were walking side by side, their matching hoodies pulled low, when the first shout cut through the dusk. "Hey freaks, where you running to?" The voice belonged to Derek Diesel Malone, a senior with a linebacker's build and a reputation for breaking noses. He leaned against the courtyard's chain-link fence, flanked by his crew. Jace, a wiry kid with a switchblade smile. Kayla, whose sharp tongue was as feared as her fists. And Reggie, a hulking junior, who never spoke but always loomed. The 4 of them had been itching to corner the twins since they first showed up, their ghostly appearances and silent demeanor making them easy targets, so they thought. Mia and Milo didn't break stride. Their footsteps echoed softly on. The cracked concrete, heads down, hands in pockets. To an outsider, they looked like easy, prey-light, pale, almost fragile. Mia's white blonde hair peeked from her hood, catching the fading sunlight, while Milo's identical locks were tucked. Behind his ears, they were 16 juniors, and their matching gray eyes seemed to see nothing and everything at once. The bullies took their silence as fear, and Diesel's grin widened. "Yo, I'm talking to you, albinos."
Hi.
Diesel shoved off the fence, his sneakers scuffing the ground as he closed the distance. Jace and Kayla fanned out, cutting off the twins' path to the courtyard's exit. Reggie stayed back, arms crossed, his shadow stretching long across the pavement. The courtyard was a dead end, bordered by the school's brick wall on one side and a rusted dumpster on the other. No witnesses, no escape. Perfect for what Diesel had in mind. Mia stopped first, her sneakers squeaking as she turned to face Diesel. Milo mirrored her, their movements eerily synchronized. For the first time, Diesel noticed something unsettling. They weren't trembling. No wide eyes, no clenched fists. Just calm, unblinking stares. Mia tilted her head slightly like a curious bird and spoke in a voice soft but clear. "You should walk away." The words hung in the air, delicate but sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. Diesel barked a laugh, glancing at his crew for backup. Jay snickered, twirling a vape pen between his fingers, while Kayla cracked her knuckles, her lip curling. "Oh, you got a mouth now, Casper," Kayla said, stepping closer. "What's next? You gonna cry for mommy?" Asterisk Milo's lips twitched, the faintest hint of a smile. It wasn't fear or defiance, it was something else. Something that made Jace's smirk falter for a split second. Diesel didn't notice. He was too busy flexing, his ego bloated by the audience of his crew. "You know what happens to weirdos who don't know their place?" he said, looming over Mia. She was a foot shorter, her frame swallowed by her hoodie, but she didn't flinch. "We teach M." What Diesel didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Mia and Milo White weren't just quiet transfers. With a knack for blending in, they were the children of Alina White, former Special Forces operative turned private security trainer who'd raised her twins in a world of discipline and combat. Since they could walk, Mia and Milo had trained in Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Muay Thai, their bodies honed into weapons as precise as they were deadly. Alina had taught them to avoid fights, to stay invisible, but she'd also taught them what to do when avoidance wasn't an option. Tonight, that training was about to surface. Diesel made the first move, lunging for Mia's hoodie to yank her forward. His hand never reached her. Mia's arm snapped up, deflecting his grab, with a fluid motion that sent him stumbling. Before he could recover, she drove her elbow into his sternum, a sharp, controlled strike that forced the air from his lungs. He gasped, eyes wide as he staggered back. The courtyard went silent, save for the faint hum of a distant streetlight. Jace was next, charging at Milo with a wild swing. Milo sidestepped, his movements almost lazy, and caught Jace's wrist, twisting it in a joint lock that dropped the wiry bully to his knees with a yelp. Kayla screamed, rushing Mia, but the twin was already moving, ducking low and sweeping Kayla's legs from under her. Kayla hit the ground hard, her breath escaping in a wheeze. Reggie finally stirred, lumbered toward Milo, but the twin was a blur, slipping behind him and landing a precise kick to the back of Reggie's knee. The giant crumpled, clutching his leg. In less than 10 seconds, the courtyard had flipped. The bullies, so confident moments ago, were sprawled or staggering, their bravado replaced by shock. Diesel clutched his chest, wheezing, while Jace cradled his twisted wrist. Kayla scrambled to her feet, her face a mix of rage and fear, and Reggie groaned on the ground. Mia and Milo stood back to back, their breathing steady, their gray eyes scanning the group for any further threats. The twins hadn't even broken a sweat. "You're done," Mia said, her voice still soft, but now laced with steel. "Walk away, or we keep going." Diesel's face twisted with humiliation. He wasn't used to losing, especially not to kids half his size. "This ain't over," he spat, backing toward the fence. "You freaks are dead." His crew stumbled after him, casting wary glances at the twins as they retreated. The courtyard fell quiet again, the tension dissolving into the evening air. But this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The next morning, Lincoln High buzzed with rumors. Whispers of the courtyard clash spread like wildfire, distorted with each retelling. By lunch, the story had grown. The twins had taken down 10 guys, or they'd pulled knives, or they were secret government experiments. Mia and Milo sat alone at their usual table in the cafeteria's corner, picking at their food, ignoring the stares. They didn't care about the rumors. They cared about the text Milo had received an hour earlier. From an unknown number. "You're gonna pay, freaks, tonight, 8 p.m., Old Mill." The Old Mill was a crumbling relic on the edge of town, a place where kids went to drink, smoke, or settle scores. It was neutral ground, away from teachers and cops, and the perfect spot for an ambush. Mia read the text over Milo's shoulder, her expression unreadable. "It's a trap," she said. "Obviously," Milo replied, his voice as calm as hers. "But we can't ignore it." They knew Diesel wouldn't let the courtyard humiliation slide. His reputation was everything, and losing to the Freak twins had made him a laughingstock. The twins also knew he wouldn't come alone this time. Alina had trained them for situations like this. Assess, prepare, neutralize. They spent the afternoon in their garage, a makeshift dojo lined with mats and punching bags. They sparred, sharpened their reflexes, and packed a small bag with supplies, flashlights, zip ties, a first aid kit. They didn't plan to lose, but they weren't reckless. At 7:45 p.m., the twins arrived at the Old Mill, its skeletal frame looming against the starry sky. The air smelled of rust and damp wood. They moved silently, sticking to the shadows, their hoodies blending with the darkness. Inside, the mill was a maze of broken machinery and rotting beams, lit only by slivers of moonlight. They heard voices, Diesel's, loud and cocky, along with others. Too many others. The twins split up, Mia climbing a rusted staircase to a catwalk, Milo slipping behind a stack of crates. From her vantage point, Mia counted 8 figures in the mill's main room. Diesel, Jace, Kayla, Reggie, and 4 others older guys, probably seniors or dropouts, their faces unfamiliar, but their postures aggressive. One held a baseball bat, another a chain. This wasn't a fight. This was a massacre in the making. Diesel stood in the center, pacing, his voice echoing. "Those freaks think they're tough. We're going to bury him. Nobody makes me look weak." The others nodded, their laughter nervous but eager. Mia's fingers tightened on the catwalk's railing. She caught Milo's eye below, and they exchanged a nod. They had a plan. Milo stepped into the open, his hands raised, his voice casual. "Looking for me?" The group spun toward him, startled. Diesel's face lit up with a vicious grin. "Psst. Got balls showing up, freak. Where's your sister?" "Running scared," Milo said, his tone mocking. It was a lie, and Diesel took the bait. He charged, Bat Guy and Chain Guy flanking him. Milo waited until they were close, then dropped to the ground, rolling behind a crate. The three stumbled, confused, as Mia struck from above. She dropped from the catwalk, landing on Bat Guy's shoulders, her knees driving him to the floor. She rolled off, snatching the bat and swinging it into Chain Guy's legs, sending him sprawling. The room erupted. Milo sprang up, disarming Jace with a wrist lock and flipping him into Reggie. Kayla lunged at Mia, but the twin was ready, parrying her punches and landing a palm strike to Kayla's jaw. The older guys hesitated, unnerved by the twins' speed. But Diesel roared, rallying them. Get 'em. What followed was chaos. But for Mia and Milo, it was choreography. They moved as one, their training a seamless dance of precision and power. Milo took down one of the older guys with a chokehold, zip-tying his wrists before he could recover. Mia used the bat to disarm another, then tossed it aside, preferring her fists. The mill echoed with grunts, thuds, and the clatter of dropped weapons. But then, a twist. One of the older guys, a lanky kid with a scar on his cheek, pulled a gun. The metallic click froze everyone. Mia and Milo went still, their eyes locked on the barrel. Diesel laughed, his confidence surging. Not so tough now, huh? He said, stepping closer. Drop to your knees, or he shoots. The twins didn't move. Mia's voice was steady. You don't want to do this? Scarface smirked, but his hand shook. Shut up, freak. Milo's eyes flicked to Mia, a silent signal. In a blur, Mia threw a zip tie from her pocket. The plastic strip sailing through the air and tangling in Scarface's fingers. The distraction was enough. Milo lunged, twisting the gun from his grip and unloading the clip in one fluid motion. The weapon clattered to the floor, useless. Mia was already moving, tackling Diesel before he could react, her knee pinning his chest. The fight was over. The bullies lay scattered, groaning or unconscious, zip-tied and disarmed. The twins stood in the center of the mill, breathing hard but unharmed. Milo pocketed the gun's clip, his face grim. We need to go, he said. Mia nodded, but her eyes lingered on Diesel, who was struggling against the zip ties. Tell your friends, she said softly. Next time, we won't be this nice. The aftermath was messy. By Monday, the school was a storm of gossip, but the bullies stayed quiet, their pride battered. The twins' reputation shifted. They were no longer freaks, but enigmas, feared and respected. The principal called them in, suspicious but lacking proof. Mia and Milo played innocent, their faces blank, their story airtight. But the real twist came a week later. A new transfer student arrived, a girl named Zara with a sharp smile and a military buzzcat. She approached the twins at lunch, sliding into their table uninvited. Heard about the mill, she said, her voice low. My brother was one of Diesel's hires. He's still limping. Mia and Milo exchanged a glance. Sorry about that, Mia said, not sounding sorry at all. Zara leaned in, her eyes glinting. Don't be. I'm here to learn from you. And trust me, you'll need me. Diesel's got cousins in a gang, and they're not happy. The twins' faces didn't change, but their minds were racing. They'd won the battle, but the war was just beginning. For now, they nodded at Zara, accepting her alliance. Lincoln High was about to get a lot more interesting. Wow, what a ride. Mia and Milo turned the tables on their bullies, but the fight's far from over. Where are you watching this epic story from? Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this tale reaches across the USA. Subscribe for more thrilling twists.